Greetings, fellow B-plus players. I know you're accustomed to hearing an intro theme song, but I had the episode in the can ready to post, and then some new things popped up, so I had an opportunity to chat with Paul Richards, who is a comedian living in Melbourne, doing a show at the moment for the Melbourne Fringe called Montreal, where he talks all about professional wrestling, and specifically the Montreal Screwjob, which we all know and love or hate love to hate. I don't even know. We sort of rushed this and had a quick little conversation just so that we could get the word out so that people could hear about this show that he is performing this week in Melbourne. If you're in Melbourne, please get down and check it out. Let's have a quick listen to what we had to say, and then we will get into the episode proper, which was ready, but I needed to delay it so that I could fit this in. So thank you very much for your patience. Let's have a chat with Paul Richards. All right, joining me at this time for a very off-the-cuff, impromptu interview. We set this up on Twitter in a matter of seconds, almost. Paul Richards, how are you, Paul?
I'm really good, Greg. Thanks for talking to me. It's amazing. We're going to have to call this one in the ring because literally I was on my way out of the door to go and throw some flyers around to the Melbourne public wearing a wrestling outfit. So I've had to hurriedly rush back and have this interview. So I'm really, really happy to do it.
That's amazing. You're in costume right now.
I did remove my Lucha Libre mask so that you could hear what I'm saying, but yeah, when we started talking on Twitter, you caught me wearing a golden wrestling cape, so that's how in character I am right now.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So you're pumped up. You're ready to go. So I caught you on Twitter. Basically, you've got this hashtag happening, and Melbourne City Wrestling retweeted it. That's where I saw it. So Sell Out Pilgrim. You are doing a comedy show in Melbourne relating to wrestling. Tell us all about it.
I am. So it's the Melbourne Fringe Festival at the moment. It officially opened yesterday, and I'm doing a show called Montreal, which is like a stand-up show, a bit of a TED talk and a bit of comedy. And it's all about the story of what happened in Montreal, and obviously the Brett and the Sean and the Vince and everything that went into it. But that's just one part of it. It's also looking about why wrestling's so great and why it should be valued a bit more as an art form, and it doesn't quite get the respect it deserves. And also just why wrestling fans love it and all the crazy and weird things about wrestling that we like. So I've got 6 more shows coming up this week, and we've already had 2 great performances where the room's been full of wrestling fans who normally don't have theatre shows to go and watch that cater to their tastes, and it's been wonderful seeing people sort of react to all of the in-jokes about 80s wrestling and that kind of thing. So it's been a really great experience so far.
Right, so is the show catered towards the hardcore wrestling fan? Can people bring along their friends who maybe don't know much about wrestling, maybe are on the fence about wrestling? Is it something you'd recommend bringing them to?
It is literally the first thing I acknowledge in the show. As soon as I come out, I'm like, so who's the wrestling fans and who's not wrestling fans? And normally the non-wrestling fans are outnumbered for once, but I do make the first 5 minutes of the show is all about getting people up to speed. And I try and make sure that we accommodate everyone. So there are some in-jokes, some references that will be really rewarding for the people who love the business as much as I do. But I'm very conscious of the fact that this is a performing arts festival. This is a theatre show. I've got to try and make it accessible to people who just don't understand the history of Harley race in the 1970s. You know what I mean? I've got to make this accessible as a story. And I mean, the great thing about Montreal is it is a kind of classic good versus evil story. So if I go through everything and explain bits at a time, people can just get on board with the basic storytelling aspect underneath it all. It is very much aimed for everyone. My festival blurb says it's suitable for smart fans and green novices alike. So there you go.
Absolutely. Now, I got to ask you, since it's based around Montreal, did Brett screw Brett?
Oh, well, you're going to have to come and see the show to find out.
I'm in Adelaide. It's right. You can tell me off air.
There's a couple of theories I do include in the show because, I mean, on the face value of it, I think we all know that, it feels like Brett was hard done by and Vince did the evil thing and Sean was looking out for himself. But I do throw a couple of other theories in there as well that maybe... maybe there was other stuff going on behind the scenes that we don't know. I put a lot of research into the show, so I come at it from a few different angles. But the thing is, it's a 50-minute show, and if we were going to talk about every aspect of the rights and wrongs in Montreal, I could have easily been on stage for about 3 hours. So I have tried to trim the fat. The easiest way I think I can answer that question is I was a huge Bret Hart fan growing up. I had his poster on my wall, and so maybe there's a little bit of bias in there. I'm very much pro Bret Hart throughout this show, and I paint him as the good guy at every possibility I get.
Right. Fair enough. Well, so it's definitely something for the people listening to this show tend to be wrestling fans. If you're listening to this show and you're not a wrestling fan, hi, how are you?
What are you doing?
Yeah, how did you find this? I'm very curious. But if you are a wrestling fan and you are in Melbourne, I know that about 70% of our listeners are in Melbourne just from looking at the stats. So this is something you want to get down and check out. Where can people find you?
The easiest way to find all the information is to go onto the Melbourne Fringe website, melbournefringe.com.au, and search for the show Montreal. It's very easy to find. The show itself is at a bar called Pilgrim underneath Federation Square, 7:15 every night, running until the 19th. And there's plenty of cheap tickets available if you hit me up on the socials.
Right, and so the bar being called Pilgrim, that's where the hashtag sellout Pilgrim has come
Yeah,
from.
I was trying to go really ambitious. I've got like 300 tickets to sell for this season, and the Fringe Festival, it never does get huge sellouts and everything, so I was trying to go a bit tongue-in-cheek and like trying to start a movement like the Women's Revolution or something like that, and try and get everyone behind this untried comedian trying to sell out all of his tickets. And so there's a hashtag online. I sent the hashtag to all of these wrestlers who completely ignored me. Apart from the local Aussie guys, actually, the Melbourne City Wrestling guys have got behind it, and I think there's when Brooksy gets back from Bowler and Juicy and Lindo have all shown a bit of interest, so hopefully we'll get some of the local boys down.
Yeah, that'll be really good. So that like I said, that's where I caught it. I'm sorry that Steve Austin and Jericho were unavailable, so you're going to have to make do with the B+ podcast. But hey, we've got 100 or so weekly listeners that'll hopefully get out and check out the show. So thanks for dropping by, and I would love to sit down and have a proper long form chat with you. I'm not going to hold you up now. I'll let you go out and do your flyering and get your lucha mask back on. But I would love to sit down and have another chat with you about wrestling and comedy and all of that stuff in the future. Again,
I just put together this huge, long festival show about my love of wrestling. Pretty much any time you want to talk and let me fill your podcast with my opinions about wrestling, I am there for you, Greg.
Absolutely. Awesome. Thanks a lot for stopping by, man.
No worries.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening.
Hold one. Andre! You're not good at this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon. You just made the list. Oh my God!
Sorry, no speak English.
Dummy.
Goodbye and good night.
Hold two. On bar.
It's still real to me, damn it!
Dummy. Yeah.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
Hold three. The moss covered. Three-handle family credential. Mamma mia!
And now, Unchained.media presents the B+ Podcast with your host, Greg Unchained.
It's me, Austin. It was me all along, Austin. Number 4, armbar. I will never retire. I still got 200 more. I got 200 more holes to list.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the B+ Podcast. I'm your host, Greg Unchained. Today is Friday. You know what that means. It's time for Aussie Grapps. Today is the day we sit down and talk about our favourite thing in professional wrestling, and that is Australian professional wrestling, because we are Australian, and nationalism. Woo! No, not really, but Australian wrestling is taking off, and with good reason. We have some seriously world-class talent, and we like to take a look at what's going on in the world of Australian wrestling. Here on the B+ Aussie Grapps episode, we like to sit down with an Aussie grappler. This week we have part 2 of an hour-long interview that I sat down and did with Massive Q, so we'll hear the rest of that this week. And then, of course, I like to break down what's going on this coming weekend in Aussie Grapps, so you can know where to look, know where to go to get out for your local shows. Before we get started with the news, though, and this is part of the news, of course, but before we get started, I do just want to talk about something quickly. This week, Australian professional wrestling lost one of its own. Judd Newman took his own life. It's a terrible situation, and honestly, it's something we need to talk about. Wrestle Radio Australia put out a really good episode I shared on Facebook yesterday. I'll drop a link in the show notes, as I always do. Todd Eastman, the host, obviously sat down with Mr. Juicy Gino Gambino, Big Brody Marshall, and Wolf Dog from Riot City Wrestling. And they talked about living with anxiety, living with depression, and and how you can, and strategies and different things to overcome it. And something they all had in common was just talking about it helps. Even that podcast, Juicy specifically said, even just doing that podcast helped, that 40-minute chat that they did. And listening to it helped me. I'm someone who suffers from specifically social anxieties and paranoia and different things as well. I've had bouts with depression too, but I've tended to come out the other side of that. But definitely anxiety is a big one for me. And listening to the podcast helped. And if you are suffering with any of these things, if you're having any kinds of thoughts of self-harm or of worthlessness, or just not knowing what to do, not knowing, any of that sort of stuff. If you're struggling, please reach out. You can always message me. I'm happy to have a chat. I am at Greg Unchained on Twitter. You can also get me on Facebook. You guys know where I'm at. You can always send me a message, send a message to the page. Someone will be happy to have a chat with you. We don't want it to get to that point. There are 3 million Australians living with depression that we know of, and 6 Australian men a day lose their lives to this terrible affliction. And we want to do whatever we can to stop that. So if listening to a podcast helps you, go listen to that WRA show. If talking helps you, reach out to me, reach out to a friend, reach out to, there's always Beyond Blue. You can call them on 1300-224636. There's always Lifeline as well, 131114, or you can go to lifeline.org.au and they have a live chat service. If you're ever feeling down, please reach out, because there's going to be someone there to lend you a hand. There's going to be someone there to help you. You're not alone. We all suffer with this sometimes. Obviously, it's more severe in some than in others, but let's talk about it. We can't sweep it under the rug. We can't let it go. It's not going to go away. It's something we need to talk about. And yeah, with that, rest in peace, Judd Newman. Our condolences and best wishes go out to anyone who is affected by the events this week. And again, if anyone needs to talk, we are here at the B+. You can always message us. Moving on, though, let's take a look at this week in Australian wrestling news. Topping out the news this week, it's a big one. We have 3 Australian competitors heading over to Los Angeles this weekend to take part in the Battle of Los Angeles. For those who don't know, the Battle of Los Angeles is probably the most prestigious indie wrestling tournament in America. It is hosted by Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. It takes place in, as the name would suggest, Los Angeles. And 3 of our Aussie grapplers have been selected to compete this year. They are Adam Brooks, Robbie Eagles, and Jonah Rock. This is actually Jonah Rock's second Battle of Los Angeles. And if I have to pick one, gun to my head, I am picking Jonah Rock. He's a local Adelaide boy. I gotta show him the love. I'm actually wearing my King of Monsters Jonah Rock Pro Wrestling shirt right now. You can't see it because this is audio format, but gotta support Jonah Rock. He's gonna go over there to Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. He's gonna win Battle of Los Angeles, #Now We Conquer, and he's gonna bring that crown back home and bring all those eyes with him for Aussie Grapps. It's a fantastic thing to have these guys over there. Robbie Eagles has a first round match with DJZ that I thoroughly believe is going to steal the show. Jonah Rock will face off with Ilya Dragunov in the first round. That's going to be a crazy match. Adam Brooks faces off with Ray Horace. I can't stress enough how important this is. When you look at winners of the Battle of Los Angeles in the past, you're talking about names like El Generico, who has obviously retired now and is helping out in a Mexican village somewhere, but he's very closely related to Sami Zayn, who has gone on to great success. Zack Sabre Jr., Ricochet, Kyle O'Reilly, Joey Ryan, Kenny Omega, Marty Scurll, Low-Key. There are a lot of names here that are synonymous with independent wrestling in the United States, and it's slowly become, as NXT has sort of raided the indies a little, it's slowly become more and more international. And when you look at the runners-up even, you got guys like AJ Styles in there, Michael Elgin, Kevin Owens was runner-up at least once, Will Ospreay. This is a serious who's who, of professional wrestling. And it's very exciting. We've had guys in there before. Travis Banks has been in there last year. He did very well. Now, Jonah Rock, of course, was there last year. We're hoping Jonah Rock wins it this year. Or let's hope for an all-Aussie final. Why not? You know, this is a really big thing for Aussie Grapps, and it's a really important date. So keep an eye on the Now We Conquer hashtag this weekend. Keep an eye on the hashtag Bowler 2018, whatever the hashtag is going to be. We have to rely on live results at this point because PWG don't stream or anything like that. It all comes out on DVD a few months later just because of contract issues with some of their superstars. They can't stream. It's just their whole model. It's kind of exclusive. You have to be there. And then, of course, the DVD will come out not long after. So to actually see the matches, we're going to have to wait, but we can follow along with the results. The B+ actually will have a man on the ground, Jamie Apps, who runs Jamie Apps Media, friend of the show. He does some really fantastic work with interviews, written interviews that he does for his Jamie Apps Media magazine, and also he creates amazing Aussie grapplers in Fire Pro Wrestling World. So if you're on Fire Pro Wrestling World, you can actually download, you know, the King of Trios. He's created them. He's created the PWG 3 as well. So he does some really fantastic work on Fire Pro Wrestling World so that we can play with our Aussie grapplers in that little universe. And he is attending Battle of Los Angeles this weekend, and he has said he will be reporting for us. He will be letting us know what happens, and we're going to have a chat with him on the podcast once the weekend finishes to just sort of go through his experience with Bowler. So that's one to keep an eye on. Robbie Eagles, Jonah Rock, Adam Brooks taking over Los Angeles. Best of luck to all three guys. Bring it home for Australia. Make us proud. Moving on, while we're speaking of Robbie Eagles got the pin on Gino Gambino at Fight to Survive last weekend. It has now been made official. Gino Gambino will defend against Robbie Eagles at MCW Horizons on the weekend of the Super Showdown. Fantastic. This is amazing. I'm going to be there for this. I'm very excited. So it's going to be my first Melbourne City Wrestling show. If you see me, come up and say hi. We'll talk about it more in the build-up, obviously, as we get closer, but the championship match has been made official. Gino Gambino defends against Robbie Eagles. Very excited to see this one. But before we get there, next weekend in Queensland, Saturday the 22nd of September, AWA presents Sky's the Limit. Robbie Eagles is booked in a triple threat match with Adam Brooks and Jake Nova. So we've got two of the PWG 3 taking on Jake Nova at AWA Sky's the Limit. And Rufio took exception to this. Now, Rufio is one of those names. Now, I've admitted previously, and I plan to rectify it, and I want to rectify it. I have a bit of a hole in my knowledge when it comes to Queensland wrestling, but one name I know for sure when it comes to Queensland wrestling is Rufio. Rufio, who had some PWA dates back when I was in Sydney. I'd seen Rufio there. I'm familiar with Rufio's work. He's travelled around quite a bit, and I've seen him in various places. Now, Rufio has taken exception to Robbie Eagles getting chucked in the main event. So he sent out a series of tweets just last night about having worked for 5+ years for AWA. I'll just read the tweets verbatim. So, I've worked 5+ years for AWA Live, and our upcoming show, Robbie Eagles gets chucked in the main for no reason whatsoever, while I'm not even scheduled to compete. I don't even like venting on social media, but nobody can deny that's a big spit in my face for everything I've done. I've always been a huge Robbie Eagles supporter, but screw him for taking opportunities from people who deserve it. Dead set, I bet he can't even tell me the top rivalries going on right now in our company. Just another dude chasing that dollar. After the next show, dude, don't ever show up in a Queensland show ever again, or I'll make sure of it. So that last little part there, that makes me think, okay, this is definitely a work, right? Like, he's like, don't show up again, or else, I'll make sure you don't. But before that, everything he says sounds like a shoot, and I completely understand. I mean, Rufio is right. I want that on a shirt, by the way. Rufio was right. Just blatantly rip off the Magneto was right designs from the X-Men books. Don't bother paying me royalties, man. Just send me a free shirt. Don't worry about it, Rufio. Got you covered. Just, there's the idea. Rufio was right, and you put your face, like the Magneto was right shirts in the X-Men comic books, and then send me one for free. No need to pay royalties. It's going to be a hot seller, I can guarantee it. But, yeah, Rufio's right. If this isn't a work, I mean, what's up with AWA not having Rufio booked? He said he's not even booked on the show. I assume that's going to get rectified, but he's one of the major names for Queensland that I know of. Like, I'm an outsider, of course. I'm not there at Queensland shows, but Rufio is a name I know. I don't know. I know Jake Nova as well, but only since doing the B+, Rufio, I don't know. It seems strange to me. He has been around a long time. He is a fantastic worker. Why isn't he on the show? At the same time, I understand the business side of it. I mean, AWA get to advertise that a guy or two guys who just competed in Battle of Los Angeles are there. So, you know, that's really fantastic advertising. Or if you're a pro wrestling fan and you're like, oh, you know, I might go out to the show. Oh, what's this? The guy from Battle of Los Angeles is going to be there. Hell yeah, I'll go check out that show. You know, and you might get extra people to come to the show that way. So I understand why AWA would be booking Robbie Eagles and Adam Brooks. As well, Robbie Eagles and Adam Brooks are fantastic talents, and they absolutely deserve the spot on the show. So I'm not a believer in this whole loyalty and exclusivity. No, the best people should get the job. But Rufio is one of the best people as well. So it's a little, like, I understand both sides of it. But my big takeaway from it is, I mean, look, get your money, dude. Like, get your money. Robbie Eagles, he says Robbie Eagles is just coming up for $1, right? Which, I don't believe that for a second. Robbie Eagles loves professional wrestling. And that's another thing that makes me think this is definitely a work, because, you know, he's not going after Adam Brooks. He's only going after Robbie Eagles, who's like the plucky underdog babyface. You know how it works. You know how wrestling works. He's going to go after the babyface. That's how you get the heat. So I don't think this is a shoot, but it's got that air of a shoot to it, and that's money to me. Anytime there's angles that might be a shoot, might be a work, not sure. I love that shit. I eat it up, and this has been played really well. So I'm really looking forward to see where it goes. But get your money, dude. Like, even if it was true, even if Robbie Eagles was just going up there for $1, good. Man needs to eat. You know, he has a wife now. You know, he's got to put food on the table. Of course he should be looking for his dollars. Like, do you mean to tell me, Rufio, do you mean to tell me that if you were being offered a spot in a Sydney or an Adelaide show or a Melbourne show, and you know that because you take that spot, one of the local guys who works there isn't going to have a spot, you want to tell me that you wouldn't take the booking? You want to tell me that you wouldn't take the money? You wouldn't take the booking? I don't believe you for a second. Of course you're going to take the booking. Of course you're going to take the money. This is what you do. You are a professional wrestler. You want to wrestle, and you want to be paid for it. It makes perfect sense to me. Like, why would you be begrudging a person for doing that? I mean, if anything, let it be a kick up the ass to be like, I gotta work harder. But again, like I said, I completely agree. He should be on the show. So AWA, what's up with that? I'm looking forward to see how this plays out, though. I assume it's going to be a work. It's going to lead to some kind of, you know, run-in or attack, with Rufio getting one over on Robbie Eagles to set up a future match. Interestingly enough, though, it's been a couple of days, and Robbie Eagles hasn't responded to it. So it might be a shoot. I don't even know. I don't know what to think about this one, but I'm very, I'm keeping my eye on it, so I'll let you know if anything happens there. Last weekend in Perth, EPW took over the Aberdeen Hotel for EPW at the Dean, and we now know who Gavin McGavin's challenger for Reawakening will be. Scotty Ryan. We're looking at Scotty Ryan. He won a gauntlet match to earn his shot. He and Gavin McGavin had a series of really good matches last year over the EPW Coastal title, culminating in a steel cage match which saw Scotty Ryan emerge victorious. Can Ryan repeat here? Can he repeat the big victory, get another win over Gavin McGavin, this time claiming the EPW Heavyweight Championship? I know, I'm pulling for the real wrestler here. I gotta be honest, I'm pulling for Gavin McGavin, but it's gonna be one hell of a match. With the stakes raised, you gotta expect them to pick up the pace and really bring it. We'll have to wait until November 3rd to find out who's gonna emerge victorious, but November 3rd, Reawakening. We're also gonna see the finals of the EPW Invitational, so we found out who that will be this last weekend as well. We're looking at Gorgeous Gary taking on the child star, Taylor King, who's been my pick to win it since the beginning. So that's something to keep an eye out for. If you're in Perth in November, this show is must-see. You can't miss this stuff. Jump on the website and get tickets before it's too late. Also last weekend, in my home promotion, Adelaide Championship Wrestling, we've covered this story a few times, the whole Blake the Man Mitchell not wanting to face off against Riley because he thinks intergender wrestling is trash. He thinks women's wrestling is trash. We know that that's a shoot. He legitimately thinks women's wrestling is trash. He has a podcast, the Horseshit Podcast. He talks about it all the time, how terrible women's wrestling is. And so, like I said, it was one of these things similar to the Rufio Robbie Eagles situation where at the beginning I wasn't sure if it was a work or a shoot, but then they put them in the ring together. So I'm like, well, clearly it's a work, or at least it's a shoot that became a work. You worked yourself into a shoot, brother. I don't even know. But at the end of the day, they got into the ring together. But anytime they actually ended up face-to-face in this intergender tag match, he would tag out. Eventually it got to the point where he couldn't avoid it, and so he just ran. He left the ring. Riley chased him out the back. It ended the match in a double count-out, and Riley still hasn't gotten her hands on him for telling her that she doesn't belong in the same ring as him. So you got to assume this is going to lead to eminence. You got to assume that maybe Riley's going to have to put up that Evolve title of hers to get this match against Blake the Man Mitchell at Eminence. But he says he's never going to get in the ring with a woman. So I'm very curious to see where this goes. I unfortunately wasn't at the ACW show. I just want to apologize for that too. I meant to go to the ACW show last week, but for some reason, whatever reason, it wasn't in my calendar. I didn't even talk about it on the show last week. I feel absolutely terrible. I don't know why it wasn't in my calendar. For some reason, it just wasn't in my calendar, so I just never got around to it. And then by the time I realized, I was like, oh, I've already recorded the show and I didn't hype it up at all. And then I didn't mention it in what's happening this weekend, and I feel absolutely terrible. And I've made plans, and so I can't go to the show. But it looked like it was a good show. Violet Blitz joined the Watcher Isaac Bailey in a disturbing twist for her character. She was already a heel, but felt a little undefined, I suppose, and so joining the Purge could really help see her character work grow. I'm excited to see how it plays out. It's definitely an interesting choice, and also from the written reports that I've seen, Jack Rossley, he was shaved by James Cruiser at the last event at Evolve 16, and this time around he was wearing a fake beard taped to his face. I don't even know. He and James Cruiser are set to face off in a fans' choice match at Eminence. So get on and vote. I voted for a leather strap match. The other choices I think were street fight, and I can't remember what the third choice was, but leather strap match, man, that's my choice. I want to see some people get whooped. It's going to be good fun. While I'm talking about Adelaide, Wrestle Rampage Domination, the show I went to a couple of weeks ago, I raved about it, said it was one of the best live wrestling shows I've ever been to. It is now available on demand. You can get that on Vimeo. I will drop a link in the show notes. Definitely worth watching. Like I said, Robbie Eagles vs. AJ Istria was a classic match. It was fantastic. And Jonah Rock in a street fight with Tyler Trench. It was brutal. There were light tubes, there were ladders, there were garbage cans, cheese graters, staple guns, you name it. It was there. It was brutal. There was blood before the opening bell. Definitely one to check out. That's Wrestle Rampage Domination. I'll drop a link in the show notes. Now, we talked last week about Underworld 2 having gone live on PivotShare, and the fact that Underworld 3 would actually be another part of Underworld 2 from what was the live show. It gets a little confusing, but essentially Underworld have changed their schedule a little to allow for better editing times and everything to make sure their team get across it in a fashion that lets them put out these great shows that they've been doing and continue doing that fantastic work in a timely manner without having to rush it or ruin it. So essentially what we're getting is the live show that was Underworld Wrestling 2 has become Underworld Wrestling 2 and 3 on PivotShare and Amazon. They've changed the names for the live events, so the next live event, which has been announced, it's taking place on November 16th, that will not be called Underworld Wrestling 3, it will be Underworld Wrestling Live, and it's going to be comprised of 2 or 3 episodes, not too sure yet on the details, but it'll be 2 or 3 episodes that they're going to film so that they can roll those out over the following months on the PivotShare. So, if you're a fan of good Aussie wrestling, and if you're a fan of high-concept wrestling, which I very much am, Lucha Underground, it's a completely different beast, but, you know, it's that kind of thing. It's a different concept, a different style of wrestling. This is where they've given themselves strict time limits. Every match has a 10-minute time limit, and at the end of that 10 minutes, if there isn't a winner, a third person can join the match. They have a point system whereby knockouts and tap-outs, you get 2 points, pinfalls get 1, draws, disqualifications, etc. get nothing. It's a really, really interesting concept. It's framed as an underworld fight club that has existed for centuries, and we're just now getting our eyes on this thing. Really exciting stuff. It's on Amazon Prime, so if you're an Amazon Prime member, you have no excuse not to check it out. You can also get it on PivotShare for just $6.66 a month. You would think, being Lord Mark Williamson, that he'd expect you to sign over your firstborn, but it's only $6.66. I see what you did there, by the way, with that number, $6.66. Very good, very interesting. Underworld Wrestling. Definitely want to check it out, and if you're in Melbourne, get down to the show on November 16th. It's going to be fantastic. They're going to be taping it, and the hashtags are going to change, so it's going to be hashtag Underworld Live, so that we can avoid spoilers. I'll be spoiling it anyway on the website on thebplus.com, so you can always follow thebplus.com for results as well, or you can wait until it comes out on Pivot Share to catch the whole thing fresh and share in the hashtag that I'm sure they'll put on the show, which is, it's really cool that they're doing it this way. I like the idea of rolling it out in a slower fashion and giving yourself time to make sure it's done right. Doing things right is more important than doing things often. I truly believe that. So, very excited to see what happens next for Underworld. Looking now a little bit more internationally, the Fale Dojo, that's Bad Luck Fale's wrestling school over in New Zealand, have announced that all 4 of the men who were in their last intake, that is Michael Richards, Andrew Villalobos, Ben Payne, and Nathan McCarter, have all been accepted into the New Japan Pro Wrestling Dojo. So that's more Aussies, more Kiwis, heading overseas, heading to Japan, New Japan Pro Wrestling. They're going to be part of the dojo system there. They're going to become young boys. They may show up on Lions Project. They may show up on Wrestle Kingdom getting chopped or beaten to hell by Suzuki. It's really good for them. Really fantastic to see. Congratulations, boys. Looking forward to seeing what comes of this. You know, the New Japan Young Lions system is fantastic and creates some incredible talents. So it's very exciting to see some of our boys heading over that way. And of course, we talked about this on the King of Sportscast with Big Boy Mikey, who knows even more about it than I do. So if you want to go back through the timeline a little, you can find that King of Sportscast from this Wednesday. We talked about the Fale Dojo graduates making it into the New Japan Dojo. Very exciting stuff for Australian and New Zealand professional wrestling. If you're wondering as well about the next lot of intakes, if you're in New Zealand or willing to travel to New Zealand to train with Bad Luck Fale, the dojo is accepting applications for 2019 intakes. The first intake is from February to May. The second is from June to September. The third is from September to December. So if you want more information, just go to faledojo.com. I will drop a link in the show notes, or you can contact them on social media, and they'll be able to hook you up with all the information that you need. Speaking of our guys overseas and New Japan Pro Wrestling, Kyle Fletcher wrestled in the British J Cup this week. We talked about this on the King of Sportscast as well, so it's definitely one to listen to if you're interested in Japanese wrestling or New Japan Pro Wrestling specifically. This wasn't in New Japan Pro Wrestling, though. This was in Rev Pro over in the UK. So Kyle Fletcher, he's over there with Mark Davis. They're actually kind of the UK's top tag team at the moment, which is very exciting. Aussie Open. I don't talk about them enough because, you know, that's more on the BritRes podcast. If you listen to this month in BritRes, you'll get what's going on there. Just don't hate me if you don't like the opinions of Akeel the Heel. He's Akeel the Heel for a reason. But yeah, Kyle Fletcher and Mark Davis are over there as Aussie Open, but Kyle Fletcher actually had a singles match as part of the British J Cup, which is kind of like the Super J Cup in Japan, but in Britain. And he wrestled Jushin Thunder Liger. He lost, but he impressed. I've been told it's a really good match. Obviously, the match isn't available for streaming yet. When it is, I will watch it. I will let you know what I thought. But really, the best thing for you to do is to watch it yourself and make up your mind. It'll be available on RevPro on demand. I will drop a link in the show notes. Kyle Fletcher, Jushin Thunder Liger, he tweeted after the match. Jushin Thunder Liger tweeted after the match. So I'm relying on Twitter Translate here. But essentially, he said that, you know, this kid's only been wrestling 5 years and he just gave me a hell of a match. I think he should come to Japan. But what do you think? I think he's a heavyweight. So this is echoing sentiments that Hiroshi Tanahashi had when he was over for Rev Pro as well. He pointed out Kyle Fletcher as one to watch. He said that he was fantastic as a worker, but that he thinks he should pack on some muscle and become a heavyweight. Kyle Fletcher has packed on muscle since then. He's not quite at the heavyweight level, but he's getting there. Very exciting to see. These are two Japanese wrestling legends. You got Hiroshi Tanahashi and Jushin Thunder Liger, both heaping praise on Kyle Fletcher and saying, come to Japan, but be a heavyweight. You got to think when he gets to that heavyweight status that they're going to be calling. Very exciting to see. Congratulations to Kyle for a great match and for all the praise he's getting for these Japanese wrestling legends. It's incredible. It's really, really good to see our guys, you know, going over there and making a name for themselves and getting more and more eyes on them. Hashtag Now We Conquer. My top story for the week. It's back. It is back, you guys. The Trophy Life. For those of you who do not know, The Trophy Life is Elliot Sexton's YouTube series, documenting his life since moving to Orlando to support his partner who has been signed to Connecticut. So, it's Very, very funny series, and it features cameos and appearances from all kinds of Australian wrestling superstars. Jet Armstrong has a prominent role on there in season 1. Mr. Juicy Gino Gambino, Robbie Eagles, Will Ospreay gets pushed down a flight of stairs. Spoilers. Each season runs for about half an hour, so if you watch it on YouTube, it's 5 episodes per season. There are 2 seasons for you to catch up on. It'll only take you 1 hour to get completely caught up on everything that's going on so that you can watch season 3, episode 1. He's banned from Australian professional wrestling and he's back in Orlando trying to find a job. And it's very entertaining. There's a cameo from Shazza McKenzie, Jessica Troy, and Charlie Evans. And they get up to some shenanigans with a custom wrestling match. It's very funny. This series is so funny. It's so funny, actually, that I sat down with my partner to watch it. So she saw me watching season 3, episode 1, and she was like, "What are you watching?" Because she knows Shazza McKenzie from our time in Sydney at PWA shows. And she was like, "What are you watching?" And I was like, "Oh, it's the Trophy Life. It's a show, Elliot Sexton's show." She remembers Elliot Sexton from World Series Wrestling. So my partner's kind of a wrestling fan. She knows what's going on, but she's not a huge wrestling fan. And she sat down with me and watched season 1, 2, and the first episode of season 3 of the Trophy Life. And she thought it was hilarious. She was in stitches at various points. I had to pause and rewind because she missed bits because she was laughing so hard. It's a laugh a minute. It's very fun, and you need to be checking it out. It is quite possibly my favorite thing in Australian pro wrestling this week. Trophy Life. Get on it. I'll drop a link in the show notes. I posted about it on the website. You can go back and find it. There's a playlist there for each of the seasons. Very excited to see Trophy Life back on it, on our, can't really say TV screens, but computer screens, phone screens, whatever screens. It's exciting to see the Trophy Life back on our screens. But that does it for the wrestling news this week. That's all the stuff I could find that I wanted to talk about. Now let's have now let's cross over and listen to the wrap up of our chat with Massive Q, where we talk about Australian professional wrestling and what's coming up for him. And then I'll be back to catch you up to speed on what's going on this weekend in Australian professional wrestling.
Yeah, underwater is a very interesting concept, and especially because I think Australian wrestling is such that you can do that. You can have experimental sort of alternate takes on wrestling, which I think is really healthy. Just like the thing about Australian wrestling that I've always sort of maintained is that it's a fairly unique duck in the professional wrestling world because we're kind of everything at once. In the sense that we're not as stylized as like Japan or Mexico or Europe is, but we have a bit of everything. Like you have wrestlers who are more sort of Japanese style, you have wrestlers who are more Mexican, wrestlers who are more European, and like the North American style. It's all sort of merged together, and you get a lot more variety in an Australian wrestling show than you would elsewhere, I believe, unless you're going to a show that's like something like Lucha Fantastica, obviously, which is different. But then again, they're just, they're doing Lucha. We're doing all Lucha. And so people who like Lucha can go to Lucha, or, what have you. But Australian wrestling, just like, I've wrestled sort of, European grapplers. I've wrestled Mexican luchadors. I've wrestled Japanese sort of strong style guys. And it's you learn to adjust. And I think that's one of the reasons like Australian wrestlers are starting to really get noticed. I think there's going to be a slow uptake because the moment you drop like guys like Jonah and Robbie Eagles and PWG and stuff, and like the Teams of Trios that has just happened with the Four Nations, reaching the finals, which is amazing. But I think that there's going to be a moment coming up probably in a few months when Australians start getting booked slightly more consistently overseas. There's going to be a point where that's just going to raise slowly, and there's going to be an explosion when everyone finds out, oh shit, these Aussies can work with anyone. And then we're going to be off to the races at that point. Because I think the minute that the world realizes that Australians can put on a great match with pretty much anyone, the sky's the limit. That's my prediction. Probably like 2019, like sort of early to mid 2019, you're really going to start to see Australians really start to take over the world.
Right. So the idea is
not to
because. Yeah, we claim the good ones for ourselves anyway. So when we say Aussies, we include them.
Well, be careful who you say that to, because I'm pretty sure that Dakota Kai, the former EV, still doesn't like me because I said that once to her, and she got really annoyed at me.
What?
It was
what that we claim the good ones.
It was an old PWA. It was not a PWA show. that was one of the ones I worked back when she was still working as Evie in the Indies.
Yeah.
And we were just, and it was after the show, and there was just a group of us chatting, and I forget how it came up, but I basically laid out the whole sort of, well, yeah, if a New Zealander becomes popular or famous, Australia automatically claims them until they fuck up, and then at which point they're back to being a New Zealander. Like how Russell Crowe becomes an Oscar-winning actor. Well, Russell Crowe's Australian. He's Australian as apple meat pies. And then he threw and then he threw the phone at the receptionist. Well, those darn Kiwis. What do you expect? They don't know how to. And then he came back and he was like funny, and he's Australian again. But and I was like half joking, but Evie's the Totokai is very proud of her Kiwi heritage, which is completely fine. I'm not in a way trying to think, but I sort of sensed from her at that point that she was like not particularly happy with my comparison, and then she got signed like almost immediately afterwards. So I'm probably thinking of it more than she is. Like she probably hasn't thought about me in years, and I'm not in any way trying to impugn on her. But it's just the fact that one of the main sort of people from the region in WWE actively dislikes me. I mean that's kind of it's better than Murphy.
But look, I got to be honest. I agree with you though.
Well,
I agree with you. We do. That's what we do.
I'm not saying it's
Kiwis.
a positive or negative. I'm saying it's something that happens. It's just a way that happens.
It's a thing we do.
Yes, because
it's the Australian way. I wonder if it works the other way. Like if Wolverine, if Hugh Jackman was to be involved in something terrible, if we'd just be like, well, he's a Kiwi. Like,
possibly. I do know that Mel Gibson's American now. We've sort of very much walled him off.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, what the factoid that I always liked, which I don't know, I'm assuming it's probably been altered at some point, but I remember that when Federation happened in 1901, they actually invited New Zealand to join us. Like, it was like, a bunch of the colonies were formally given to create a country called Australia. New Zealand, would you like to be involved? And New Zealand was like, well, we wish you well, but no, we're a bit far away. We've got our own thing going on. But supposedly, as I understand it, there is a clause in the Australian law, the way it's written out, we could annex New Zealand at any point with an act of parliament. Now,
really?
Yes, now I'm sure New Zealand would have a problem with that, and New Zealand might disagree. But as I understand it, we can, if we decided that New Zealand was part of Australia, we could just part of an act of government. And wouldn't have to ask them, wouldn't have to tell them. We could just say that they're part of Australia now. Now, again, they would have an issue with that, but as I understand it, all we have to do is just pass a law, and suddenly New Zealand is part of Australia.
Right. Well, for the purposes of our Aussie Grapps episode here, I am enacting an act of B+ Parliament, and they are part of Australia. When we're talking about Aussie Grapps, I'm talking about the Kiwis as well. So, so what you're saying is the style.
Yeah.
Because we're such a melting pot, we can have a good match anywhere in the world.
I think Australia doesn't have a style per se. It's more the fact that, because if you rest in Australia, eventually you're going to encounter people who work pretty much every style on the planet. And there is an Australian style, but the Australian style is almost there is no style. The Australian style is very much a case of you learn to adjust to be able to, just I worked with the Velocities, and then I worked with One Direction, and then I worked with Shazza McKenzie and Big Fudge and the Four Nations, and it's all, and there are commonalities, but they're all sort of off doing their own thing, they're all working their own style, and then you slowly come to listen to what professional wrestling can be, but you learn, you know how to adjust your style to suit them.
Right, and a lot of our guys go on excursions overseas and come back, and so they bring that little thing that they picked up. Like, so, Brooksy's been over in the UK for a while, so he's going to bring a little bit of the UK back. We've had people go over and train with Chikara, so they're going to bring a little bit of that style back. We had, Jonah over in Japan, etc.
Storm, I know that Tennille Dashwood went over to trained at Storm, and then came back, and then left, and then come back again. And so you get.
Yeah, now we've got people going over for Black and Brave as well. Yeah,
and that's pretty awesome, and that's part of it. It's also just part of the fact that Australia just has. I want to say, flotsam sounds like I'm insulting them. I'm not trying to, but we get sort of a lot of sort of different influences come into Australia, just culturally and generally as multi. I think Australian multiculturalism, just in a general sense, is very strong. Like we have issues sort of as a group, and I'm not trying to stay away from that. But Australian multiculturalism works fairly well because there's this sort of there's this stance of, well, you better do right and live by our rules. And you new people, and the new people are, okay, well, I've come here for a better life. What do I have to do? And then it's like, I don't know, mateship, know what cricket is. And so once you get past that, once you get past that initial barrier, and you accept it, which is not an easy thing, it takes time and has, obviously there's issues. But once that happens, you're able to do what you're able to have your own little enclave, and parts will be absorbed into Australian culture, and you get to sort of, we just absorb it and we let you still have it, and that sort of bleeds over to wrestling.
I think that Australia is actually the best example of multiculturalism working, because essentially, just don't be a tosser, we'll be right.
Yes, and that's exactly, and I think that's and again, it doesn't always work out that way, unfortunately, because people are people. But I think it is. I'm very in favour of Australian multiculturalism. But that sort of flows onto the wrestling, because you will have people come out, like one or two people come out from like the Japan or Mexico, or wrestle that style, or go over there and train and come back. And that sort of seeps in, and you might pick up a move here or there, or you might just you work a program with them, so you learn how to adjust to their style. And I think that sort of permeates Australian diversity and adaptability. I think are very underrated aspects of Australian wrestling. And that's what I think. I think in a few months, like once we get critical mass and we start seeing Australians wrestling booked and wrestling in America and elsewhere slightly more often, enough that people forget that they're Australian. I think there needs to be that point where it's no longer a special attraction. It just becomes, here's an Aussie to wrestle, we're almost there. But once we sort of just get past that point, that's when people are going to start to notice that, oh shit, these Aussies are really amazing, like super amazing, and then there'll be an explosion. Because like you do get people understand that people understand like Madison Eagles is incredible, and people are just discovering the Four Nations and stuff. But there's going to be a critical mass sooner or later, and I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, well, I've been feeling it for a while. I've been feeling it for a while that we're on the verge of a boom, that it's going to happen. Yes. And I mean, I got the first time I got that feeling was probably 2014 when I went to a PWA show back then, and I was like, this is actually incredible wrestling going on right under my nose.
Yeah, I think in wrestling it's fairly common that you have to sort of be good for a while before people really start to notice. It's never a sort of like you put on one good show and boom, you're done. It always has to be that consistent sort of. It's an exponential thing where you've got to be good for a consistently long time, and then eventually one or two people will start coming more, and then they'll spread word of mouth, and then a couple more, and then a couple more, and then a couple more, and then suddenly you look back and like, oh, we've grown like 100% since where we were like 2 years ago, but it's been so gradual, and then in 1 year we're going to be 10 times as big. Because it's just that's how it's
yeah, well, because it builds on top as well. So like, I mean, you have you guys like your Robbie, your Jonah, as you mentioned, and then I mean, but the generation that are coming up now, so it's taken them 10 years, 12 years to get to where they are. The generation that are coming up now have more opportunity because of those guys, and so it's sort of when it rolls on. It's like the snowball effect.
Yeah, exactly, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what something like this new generation, I'm looking forward to the point where the velocities aren't just a semi-viral GIF online, but they're over there in America and Japan or in Europe or wherever they just choose to go, and they're really kicking ass and they're really taking names and they're really making it play for themselves. And then and Matty Wahlberg and Ricky South and all these guys who made a name for themselves and were able to sort of really make an impact. And that's going to be a really awesome time, I think, especially when they then come back and maybe bring some friends and maybe bring some more knowledge, and this is going to be amazing.
Yeah. I look forward to the day that Jackson Kelly and Jude the Dude are on TV having a main event for a world title, and we look back at this little 5-second match that they had on Take Me Out and have a bit of a laugh.
Yeah, exactly. I've always made it's been a long time now that Australia's had enough world class talent. We could have an amazing company. It's part of the issue is that they're all spread out across the country, and part of them, and some of them won't talk to the other people. That's beside the point. But yeah, like
geographically though.
Oh yeah, that's
difficult.
That's the thing, because you have the hotspot of Sydney, you have like Newcastle, and you have Melbourne, and you have Adelaide, and you have Perth, and it's not like in America where you can have like 4 or 5 states next to each other. And it's like a 2-hour drive to sort of do the tour. It's a bit wider here, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, hopefully we get I really do think that Australia has enough talent that we could totally do a televised national company. And if I win the lottery, I'll probably make a play for it because nobody actively hates me apart from me. So but we'll see how it goes.
So she's under contract, so it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
So I feel like we could talk forever at this point, but I like to bring in sort of 5 quick questions, rapid fire,
absolutely.
Right? So I want first answer that pops to your head, kind of thing. So we'll start with wrestling, then we'll get away from wrestling a little in the last couple. So dream match.
For myself, the dream match would probably be myself versus Stevie Richards, who is managed by Victoria. Yes.
Nice. Favorite person to work with?
I'm going to offend so many people. Honestly,
that's why I asked this question. Everyone says it. Oh, no.
Fair enough. Okay, I'm going to have to split that into 2 halves, unfortunately. I'm going to have to take the coward's way out and say that in terms of overall work, in terms of any sort of working at all, Lord Mark Williamson. So I thought that we had a really good sort of interaction and thing. In terms of actual in-ring product, probably I'm going to have to say Big Fudge. Even though we don't...
Okay.
Big Fudge.
Well, Big Fudge is a pleasure to watch work.
Exactly.
He was down here for Wrestle Rampage the other day, and it was an amazing 4-way match that they had. So definitely, I can get behind that. Now,
a lot of people don't realize just how good Big Fudge is. Like not just in terms of character, but also in terms of work rate. And I think that he can surprise you. He really can.
Yeah, well, I don't think I've seen a match of his recently that's not good. Yeah. When he puts the way the matches get put together, I always find them well paced, very entertaining matches. Yes. So, if you were to bring over a promotion similar to what Progress did with PWA and what have you, if you were to bring over a promotion to co-promote a tour, who would you bring?
I'd probably take the same. Well, I mean, in terms of money, I'd say WWE, but they would be the same.
Well, they're off the table.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to say Impact, just because Impact has such the moment is actually making a lot of strides to shake off some of the sort of the issues they've had, but also just Impact works with Sony now has such a good relationship with so many people that if you brought Impact over, you would get Lucha guys, the Lucha Underground guys. You get a lot more people sort of as a feeder effect. Like if it's just going to be one promotion, just their guys, Shikara, obviously. But if I would cheat slightly and get Impact, because Impact I would get a whole bunch of people.
Yeah, no, Impact's good, and they're open to that kind of thing too, which is really nice. So you see them working with Destiny and working with Rise.
World Series.
All right. Well, yeah, of course. So they kind of do that over here because we've got their world champion over here.
Yes, I know. I'm totally ruining the concept. I know, but
that's fine. Pineapple on pizza.
God, no. I'm Italian. No. I'm legally obligated to say no. Okay.
See, I thought you'd be a pineapple on pizza guy. I don't know why. I just got the vibes.
Okay. You've got me off. Set me off here. I understand. Okay, the thing is, pineapple on pizza. I understand the concept of the fact that food involves contrast. Involves like texture contrast. So the pineapple on pizza argument basically boils down to you need sweet in with the savory, and that you need a contrast. And I understand that as a theory. My issue with pineapple on pizza is not that it's weird and wonderful. It's that it often is too overpowering and it's too noticeable. Because a lot of people, the pineapple chunks are often too big, and I like pizza to be crispy and like thin, crispy pizza, and pineapple dilutes that. So my issue is comedically the issue is just I'm Italian and it's primary its nature. My main issue with pineapple on pizza is that I don't think it works on a textual level, which is probably more in depth than anyone has ever been on that question on your show, and I understand that. But
you've given that a lot of thought.
I have. Just it's something that I'm Italian. I have to have an opinion on it.
Fair enough. Well, Let's look at the other question I like to ask. I think this reveals a lot about a person. Favorite flavor of protein shake?
Okay, and I remember the first guy on who's actually going to admit this. I don't drink protein shakes. I'm not really deep into that aspect as the rest of the wrestlers, which I'm sure is going to shock a lot of people. And I'm hearing the shock gasps from wrestlers all over Australia. But the thing is, I've always maintained that, like, you see people's. I saw a tweet from a person who I won't mention. And I'm not trying to rag on them. I like this person. I think they're really good. But he was talking about how if you're a big guy and you just do the normal stuff, you shouldn't get credit for having, for being a big guy, because it just means you're not working out, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I don't sort of try and slim down because I'm lazy. The thing is, you need contrast in wrestling, and you need diversity, and you need big fat guys. You need big fat guys fat guys as much as you need the small flippy guys.
They're part of the lineage too. They've always been around.
And so it's not that I'm trying to. I'm not trying to get credit for being able to wrestle despite the weight. I'm maintaining the weight in order to maintain the gimmick. I mean, actually, I don't actively try to stay huge. I don't have to try to slim down. I just let the body do what it wants. But the thing is that you need big guys as a contrast to the small guys. And so I'm not trying to get credit or trying to coast on the fact that I'm huge. It's that I am bringing something different to the show than anyone else, and that should be allowed. I obviously need to work just as hard as everyone else, and I'm not trying to say that I have it easy or that they have it easy, or that working hard in the gym isn't work or anything. But you need to be able to produce that contrast, and that's something that some people miss and some people don't sort of grasp, I think, about wrestling. Which again, I'm getting way more in depth than the answer than you expected, and I apologize for that. But that's all right.
No, it's interesting that you bring up something that actually interests me, because when we talk about the diversity in wrestling, people will quite often go to queer representation or women in wrestling and all that sort of thing, but they don't talk about body shapes on men. Like for women, quite often you're like, yeah, of course, we need all sorts of shapes and sizes of women in wrestling, and anyone can wrestle. But then there is still that stereotype of, to be a wrestler, a male wrestler, you need to have that V shape. You need to be muscular and athletic. And it's like, well, there's different types of wrestlers. There's different types of bodies that work in wrestling.
Yeah, just like you need. I think it was Bret Hart, Bret Hart like video. I forget, Secrets of the Ring or something. And he talked about how there's no more King Kong Bundys anymore. There's none of there's no sort of the big, huge guys. And and I'm not saying that I'm not saying that every show should have a whole bunch of people who look like me, but then that would be boring. But then a whole bunch of shows of people of the Velocities would be boring, as much as I love the Velocities.
Yeah.
You need.
Well, no, one of my favorite guys in Ring of Honor is Beer City Bruiser.
Yes, exactly.
It's necessary.
You need contrast, and I think the issue, like I obviously with like women and people of color and queer identities and stuff, so I'm completely on board with. I'm completely supportive of.
Yeah,
and I think the reason you hear more about that is because they've been historically excluded more than fat guys, like big,
Oh, of course.
Fat guys.
Yeah, of course.
So, but obviously, I do sort of defend myself, and I defend my style, and I defend my group. But it's obviously not,
just so you know, the protein shake question wasn't about that at all. It's more just an opportunity for people to rag on vanilla as a flavor. That's
what?
That's more what it's about.
Why is vanilla so hated? Vanilla used to be one of the most expensive spices on the planet, and used to be. It's just because the problem is people have associated vanilla with plainness, and it's not. Whoever was the whoever.
I will make the case. How is vanilla not plain? How is vanilla not plain? Make the case.
Because vanilla is a flavor. The thing is, plain implies no flavor. Plain implies that it is default, and vanilla is not a default. Vanilla is, you have to add something to vanilla to get vanilla. There is people don't know what plain is. People don't understand. Like, people don't understand that vanilla is just the most common because it was after a certain point it became very easy to reproduce. That's not the same as plain. Common is not default. Those are separate things. And so So obviously it's this thing about how people, people see it as the default when it's just common. And like if I was to drink a protein shake, I'd probably drink something like strawberry, or like a berry flavor. I don't know if they make that.
Okay,
Again, I'm showing my ignorance.
Yeah, but I have a fantastic strawberry shortcake one. I love it.
There you go.
It's delicious.
I'm a staunch defender of vanilla as a concept, and I think that people rag on vanilla far too much in most regards.
Yeah, well, that's what it is. That's what this question's for. It's for people to go on tangents about how they either love vanilla or hate vanilla, because that's what it inevitably comes down to.
I'm not actively in love with vanilla. Like, vanilla's just a flavor, just like any other. And that's sort of it deserves a place in the pantheon. And it's not
right. You'll defend it when necessary.
Exactly. Yeah, it's the old thing. Like, I won't quite go to the barricades for it. I'll go to like a lot of things. I'll go to the barricades for your right to do this, but I'll also go to the barricades for my right not to. There's a lot of things in life.
All right. Well, look, before we go, this coming weekend, you're going to find yourself in a bit of a war for your right to continue competing in Wrestling Go.
Yes. This Saturday, not Sunday. If I turn up on Sunday, I'll be late. This Saturday at the Marion Community Centre, I finally get my chance to get back into Wrestling Go. Because look, this has long ago stopped being about just the fact that I lost a match to Big Fudge, which he clearly cheated in, and I've got beyond that point. And it's not even about me and Gat, like the fact that I screwed him out of the gold medal. And, I put him through a TV with a choke slam. A big deal. This is about my right to decide when and where I choose to work. All right? This is about my opportunity, my self-worth, and my self-regard. And being able to say that I will leave Wrestling Go if and when I choose to. Not when a piece of paper says it. Not when Bob Mayer says, oh, no, you're going to go now because a bit of paper says it. No. I'm going to stay in Wrestling Go until I damn well choose to leave. So this Saturday, I've got some people behind me. I'm maybe not be friends with them. I may not agree with them on a lot of things, but they're the authors of Art of Destruction and Jack Payne just want to hurt people. Paris Silva actually agrees with me, and Paris Silva actually is on my side in that regard. But the fact is that when we face off against Gat and Alex Irvine and the Divas and friggin' Jude the Dude London, who I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on, because he deserves a beating for losing so badly on TV. But when I get in the ring with them, it's not just about me versus them. It's not just about my personal opinion about their personal opinion. It's about my right as a human being, as a wrestler, to decide when and where I get to choose when to work. I decide when I did go to the sunset. Not anyone else. Me. And that's why I'm going to win at United. That's why I'm going to go into Wrestling Go and I'll walk out once again a Wrestling Go employee. Because I can work anywhere I want to. But Wrestling Go wants to kick me out? No. I leave when I'm damn good and ready. Not them.
All right. Look, best of luck. Best of luck. It's going to be an insane match. 10 bodies in the ring.
Elimination tag. So, it's not going to be like one and done. It's going to be like they don't have to eliminate everyone on my team. And they're not going to do that. There's no way in hell that's going to happen.
Yeah, I can tell you're definitely not going to go easy. So, best of luck probably is better for me to wish your competitors the best of luck, to be honest. But before we go, where can people find you, Q?
I have a Twitter, which is at Massive Q. I have an Instagram, which I very rarely use, but it's there, Massive Q42. I have a fan page on Facebook. And then you can find my blog if you've just about reading the Drabbles at 110picture.blogspot.com.au, or just Google 110 for a picture, or go to my Twitter. I post links to all the Twitters on there. And if you want to possibly read up on all the former wrestling columns I've written, they'll be on there's Ask For on Wrestling, which is on foreignormania.com. Just look for the Matthew Forcina with an S archives, and they're on there too. So that's pretty much everything you could possibly want.
All right, thanks a lot for coming on the show, Q.
Thanks for having me.
So there you have it, Massive Q fighting for his career this weekend at Wrestling Go. We'll get to that in a second. Before we do, if you like interviews with Aussie grapplers, make sure you check out our friends on the Turnbuckle. They sat down to speak with the Mad Bastard, Crackerjack, Australian wrestling legend, who of course is on a Wrestling Legends contract with Melbourne City Wrestling. He's not content sitting around in the mansion that he paid for with his Melbourne City Wrestling pension. I didn't even know that was a thing, but that's a direct quote almost from him at Melbourne City Wrestling 100. He's on a Legends contract. I didn't even know such a thing existed here, but that's fantastic. Good for you, Crackerjack. Tune into On the Turnbuckle if you want to hear the mad bastard Crackerjack and more crazy stories like that. Never know what's real and what isn't with that guy, so it's definitely going to be a good listen. As I mentioned at the top of the show as well, Wrestle Radio Australia sat down and had a very, very important discussion about wrestling with anxiety, wrestling with depression. If you need help, reach out. We are here. Definitely one to listen to. Moving on, let's take a look at what's happening this weekend in Australian professional wrestling. So if you need an escape, this is where you do it. Wrestling Go this weekend, Saturday night. Wrestling Go present United. Massive Q will be fighting for his career, for his right to decide when he will retire, not to have that forced on him by some pencil neck geek with a booker's pen. That's Team Massive Q against Team GAT in a 10-man elimination tag match, Survivor Series style. Also on the show, Unsocial Jordan takes on Diego Redamales for the Wrestling Go gold medal and much, much more. That, of course, all goes down at Marion Community Centre this Saturday, September the 15th. Tickets start at $15. Children, though, for Wrestling Go, kids under 12 get in free. So it's a great family show to get out to and check out with the kids. You know what isn't a great family show to check out with the kids? That's Newcastle Pro Wrestling's House of Free Fighting present House Party. Who's Out for the Boys. Now, the Who's Out for the Boys, the House Party shows, House Party shows, they are 18 plus. It is BYO. Bring a couple of cold ones. Watch some Aussie Grapps completely free of charge. There's not much better to do on a Saturday night than that. This weekend we see Dazza, Headhunter Rig, Party Boy Jax Jordan, Jackson Kelly, Parker Thomas, and many more. House Party, like I said, it's an 18 plus event. Definitely one to check out this Saturday night if you're in Newcastle. Meanwhile, in Victoria, another big weekend for Victoria, as it quite often is, Saturday night, APW present Made in Melbourne at Cranbourne Indoor Sports. I see what you did there. Technico's a cat, so Melbourne. I get it. Made in Melbourne. Cranbourne Indoor Sports. Technico makes his first APW Championship defense against Richie Taylor, hot off his win over Robbie Eagles at the anniversary event. Xavier Black and Chris Law, former best friends, now bitter enemies, go one-on-one. The Mercenary, Slade Mercer, Mad Dog, and Ali all make their APW debuts, as well as appearances from many other wrestling superstars, including overnight celebrity sensation, the star of Channel 7's Take Me Out, Aria, Looking for Love. Tickets start at $15 for that one on Saturday night as well. In Melbourne, New Age Wrestling present NAW Live at the NAW Arena in Albion. Marcus Rampage Blaze defends his NAW Pure Championship against Vance Adams. Lozen and Bianca both look to strip Avery of her NAW Women's Championship in a triple threat match. Raw Beef and Mitch Waterman and Nick Berry clash over the Tag Team Championship, and Cody Swift defends the NAW Heavyweight Championship against Tyler Frost in an Iron Man match. Much, much more as well on that show. Tickets start at $15. PCW Ignition, as always, comes to you from the Southeastern Entertainment Centre on Saturday night. Tickets are available at pcw.com.au. Sunday. Live pro wrestling on a Sunday in Melbourne. Mayhem Pro Wrestling present Episode 1. It's my first day. What a great name for the show. It's their first show. They're going kind of like the Progress route where they do chapters, but they're doing episodes. I love it. I love the idea of episodes. So Episode 1, it's my first day. Wet and Slick, that is Mitch Waterman and Nick Berry, take on Lindo and Camby. Loverboy Lockie Hendricks, one-on-one with Cousin Ali. Kellyanne squares off with Taylor Rose, and the J-Stick, JXT, faces off with Mr. 24/7, Jake Navarra. It's going to be a fantastic show. Really good to see live pro wrestling on a Sunday in Melbourne. Tickets are available on Moshtix and start at $23. Up in Queensland, Saturday night in Townsville, QWA bring the Battle for the Farmers to the Townsville Greek Community Function Centre. Dragon Yuki and Agu are coming from Japan to join the fight. Australian Wolf returns from his tour of Japan. Tommy Asgard will be looking for a new challenger to his QWA championship, and much, much more. Tickets start at $10, and $2 from every ticket sold will go to help Queensland farmers struggling through the drought. There will be other donation options on the night as well for those who want to and can give extra support. So this is definitely one to go out and check out. Help our farmers, catch some Aussie Grapps, have a good night. What more do you need to know? Also on Saturday night in Queensland, New Valhalla Wrestling present Hammerfall at the Mount Gravatt Showgrounds. As we found out here on this very show, Indy Hartwell is going to New Valhalla. She will take on Kelly Ann in the first ever Valkyries match. Tim Cade goes one-on-one with Goran Nikolov. There is an 8-man eliminator which sees JL Gold, Shinji, Zeke Andino, Bobby Bishop, Jake Nova, EC Diamond, and Adonis face off in elimination action. And the first ever New Valhalla Wrestling Champion will be crowned when the Warship, Rip Riley, Felix Young, and Dallas Summers face off in 4-way action. What a show that's going to be. That's Saturday night at Mount Gravatt Showgrounds. Tickets for that one will start at $10 for children, $20 for adults. Kids under 5 get in for free. And don't forget, if you join Club Loki, you get not only the tickets to every show for a year, but you also get a shirt, a Viking tankard, and a bunch of other cool stuff. So clubloki.com. I think it's $100 to join Club Loki, so you're making savings just on the show tickets. It's definitely worth getting in for that one. Now, down here in my home state of South Australia, Saturday night, PWSA come to you live from the arena in Paraka with Matt Hayter and the Goblet of Fire. This one features a battle royal for the right to enter the Goblet of Fire match. No need to just randomly put your name into the Goblet of Fire here.
How did you put your name in the Goblet of Fire?
You can earn your way into the Goblet of Fire by winning a battle royal. A fatal 4-way Goblet of Fire number 1 contenders match. The tag titles are on the line when Veterans Club defend against Beauty and the Beast, and the FNF Championship is on the line when LJ Onyx challenges John E. Raddick. Tickets for this one start at $15. Also on Saturday night, Riot City Wrestling present RCW Live 42 at the Riot City Wrestling Academy in Hindmarsh. Chris Basso will be defending the RCW Championship against Dean Brady. This match, for $10, is a steal. You are stealing from RCW if you go see this match at that price. Also scheduled to appear are the Difference Tyler Daniels, Jensen Hunt, the Viking Grimm, Carlos Diaz, and more. Tickets are $10. I cannot stress enough how great the wrestling is for $10. You definitely want to get out and check that one out if you live in Adelaide. Over in Western Australia, no wrestling to speak of per se. However, EPW have their open day on Saturday, September the 15th. You can come in and see if you have what it takes to become Australia's next great grappler and train with Damian Slater and Gavin McGavin, tag team champion and EPW champion respectively. All you gotta do is email info@epwperth.com to register. Jump on Facebook, go to the EPW page. All the information you need is there. And that does it for this weekend in Aussie Grapps. And that means that does it for us here at the B Plus Podcast. Thanks so much for checking out the show. If you like what you heard, we also sit down to talk WWE on Saturdays. We talk all the rest on Sundays, Impact Zone on Mondays, King of Sports on Wednesdays, and every now and then we drop in this month in Puroresu, this month in Brit Res, this month in special interview shows. We do all sorts of cool stuff. If you just hit that subscribe button, you can check out all our shows. They'll pop into your favorite pod feed. We're on iTunes, we're on Podbean, we're on Pocket Casts, we're on all of them. We're even on Spotify. So if you hit that subscribe button, it really helps us out. Make sure you leave us a 5-star review because you love Aussie Grapps and we love Aussie Grapps. And we want to get that out there into the world so that more people can see it. The 5-star review really helps visibility on iTunes. Definitely do that for us if you can. I am at Greg Unchained on Twitter, at the Greg Unchained on Instagram. We, collectively, are the B Plus Wrestle on Twitter because wrestling wouldn't fit. The B Plus Wrestling everywhere else. That's YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, Instagram. Taking over the world. Please leave us a 5-star review if you like what you hear. Like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. And thank you so much for listening.
Hold one! Arm drag! You're not good at this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon. You just made the list! Oh my God!
So, now speak English.
Dummy! Goodbye and good night. Hold two!
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
It's still real to me, damn it!
Coming.
Hole 3. The moss-covered, three-handle family Granunzo. Mamma mia! It's me, Austin! It was me all along, Austin! Number 4, armbar.